Welcome everyone, Smog here, and today I'm bringing the next guide in the DPS range, and that is going to be the Balanced Druid. The Balanced Druids have always been a builder spender kind of spec, and with the new Eclipse system, that does improve upon it. As usual, guys, just a disclaimer, this video is my opinion, and some of the things you may or may not agree with, or you may find that work better for you. Obviously, different stats and stat weights can be changed by Blizzard at any time, as well as depending on your playstyle is how these things are going to affect you. But this is basically just a jumping off point for you to get started into that class. As always, guys, I do recommend that you guys always sim yourself using raid bots. Remember, I do stream over on Twitch on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Links are going to be down in the description below. And if you do enjoy this video and it does help you out, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. Click that subscribe button and turn those notifications on so you know when the next video does go live. I will continue to update guides as well as any minor updates. I will try to post those down in the comments down below. So keep coming back for those. All right, guys, with that, let's get into it. The Balanced Druid for Shadowlands. All right, so let's go over some of the strengths of the Balanced Druid. Balanced Druids have very good burst single target damage. They have very good AoE sustained damage, and they have very good utility as far as with heals and crowd control. Well, the main weaknesses of the Balanced Druid is that they do tend to have long ramp up times for AoE. But once they get to that point, they do pretty good sustained damage. Okay, so your stat priority is going to be number one above all else is going to be intellect. Number two is going to be mastery because that does increase the damage of your spells, and that works very well with the new Eclipse system. Number three is going to be actually kind of almost a three-way tie for the most part, and that's going to be haste, critical strike, and versatility. All right, so as far as your gems, you are going to want to gem up for mastery, and that's going to be using the Masterful Jeweled Cluster. On your bracers, go ahead and get that extra intellect with Eternal Intellect. Get the 30 bonus to all stats using Eternal Stats for chest. Your ring should be the Mastery Rings. That's going to be the Tenet of Mastery. And your weapon, I would recommend the Celestial Guidance. It's just very good for overall AoE. Also, make sure that you are using Shadow Core Oil on all your weapons for that extra buff. And as always, in raid situations, you're going to use the Gluttonous Hedonism Feast, but otherwise, you're going to use the Iridescent Ravioli with applesauce. Potion of Spectral Intellect is always a good go-to. All right, so let's go ahead and get through your talents. First off, we're going to start off with single target. That is primarily your raid bosses and sometimes your dungeon bosses that normally don't have any ads. Even when you're doing your leveling questing stuff, there's always seems to be multiple mobs. And so typically I would recommend that you gear up toward AoE, but for those instances where you do need a single target or want to focus on single target, this is going to be your recommended talent. Again, these things can change. A lot of these are based off of your playstyle. So if you find something else that works better for you, feel free to try it out. This is definitely not set in stone as to what you need to do. The next set we'll get into after we get through single target, I will go through the AoE and mythic build. And then at the end of that, I will put them side by side with the recommendations on what your talent trees could look like for each, as well as I'll even put up one further toward the end for Torghast. The level 15, Force of Nature, Warrior of Elune, and Nature's Balance. My recommendation is going to be Nature's Balance. The fact that it gives you 50 astral power to start it off, and basically one of the best regen for astral power on the entire row makes this the easy choice. All right, so level 25 is kind of more of whichever one that fits your play style. Tiger Dash is very good if you want to shift into cat form and increase your movement speed. Renewal is a nice little minute and a half cooldown on it that can give you a nice little burst healing if you're finding you're needing that. And then there's Wild Charge. Obviously, if you're a Moonkin form, it acts much like Disengage for hunters and it leaps you backwards. For me, because I do play a hunter a lot of the times, I do like Wild Charge just because it is very familiar to Disengage for me. So for my choice, I will choose Wild Charge. All right, level 30, another choice that you get to make based off of your play style. Feral Affinity is going to increase your movement speed. It's also going to give you a number of offensive capabilities. Guardian Affinity is going to reduce the amount of damage you take, and then Restoration Affinity is going to give you some heals. Personally, I like the ability to have healing, so I will be going with Restoration Affinity. All right, so level 35, much like levels 25 and 30, this is kind of your own choice. Neither one of these rows really have a direct impact on your DPS. It's kind of just what you would like to do for your playstyle. All of these can be very good. Mass entanglement I do like, especially if you need to root a whole bunch of things at once. It can be very good. But for me, I really do like having the stun, and so I would go with Mighty Bash. All right, so level 40, you do have a couple of choices here. Soul of the Forest basically increases the Starfire's area of effect damage by 150%. This is very good for AoE, but not so much single target, which is what we're focused on right here. Chosen of a Loon basically gives you more critical strike chance, but it does have a 3-minute cooldown. I do like Star-Lord a lot just because Star Surge and Starfall grant you a 4% haste for 15 seconds, and it can stack up to 3 times. And so I do recommend Star-Lord here just because for single target getting you that 4% haste, especially when Star Surge is your primary filler or spender, I just think this one benefits single target the most. All right, so level 45, you do have Stellar Drift, which is going to increase Starfall's duration by 2 seconds and its duration by 15 seconds. Allows you to do movement here. Twin Moons is basically allows for a cleave, hits another target nearby enemy. And then Stellar Fire is basically a very good dot. It does quite a bit of damage over time. Stellar Flare is going to be the one that I recommend for the single target, as it is a direct dot directly put on that single target. Should also be noted here that Stellar Flare also generates 8 astral power, so it also gives you some regen as well as a very good dot. All right, and so level 50, you do have Fury of a Loon, which basically is going to call down a beam. You can use this every minute. It's going to follow them around. It does pretty good damage on the primary target, but seems to lose it on secondary targets. New Moon deals a whole bunch of astral damage to the target and empowers New Moon become Half Moon. Generates, it does have a maximum of 3 charges, but for me, I do love a lot of passive abilities that you guys have probably recognized, and I do recommend Solstice here, primarily because every single time, the first 6 seconds of every eclipse that you get, Shooting Stars is going to fall 300% more often, which is a big increase in damage. And I just think this one, with its passive ability, is not something that you do not have to manually do. I just think this is a very valuable asset, so I would recommend Solstice here. Okay, so for AoE, not a whole lot is changed, as you can see from the talent tree here. The only ones that really change is level 40 and level 45. Nature's Balance to me is still the best because it gives you that 50 astral power, which is just very good, as well as the regen. Again, levels 25, 30, and 35, it's basically whichever you guys really prefer. Like I said, I like Wild Charge because of the basically disengage aspect of it. I like to have the on-spot healing if I need to, and then I like it for the stuns. So Soul of the Forest, much like I alluded to in the single target discussion, this one increases the race or astral power generation by 50% and increases Starfire's area of effect damage by 150%. This is obviously just tailor-made just for AoE, and I do think this is a very good choice to make here compared to the other two. Level 45, I like Stellar Drift as compared to the other ones. Obviously, Stellar Flare is a very single target dot. It does regen some. This one is kind of a cleave, but in all AoE, increasing Starfall's duration by 2 seconds, and then its damage by 15%, as well as allowing it to be cast while being moved. I just think is very good for AoE, and so that's why I recommend Stellar Drift. Level 50, go with Solstice. I just think it's the best one on this row. The fact that it gives Shooting Stars a 300% chance to fall more often during the first 6 seconds of every eclipse, I just think it's too good to pass up here. All right, so here it is, a side-by-side comparison. As you will see, the single target tree is on your left side. The AoE Mythic Plus talent tree is on the right side. The only real differences between the two is at level 40 and 45. Single target, you're taking Star-Lord and Stellar Flare. AoE, I recommend that you do take Soul of the Forest as well as Stellar Drift. All right, so as far as your Covenants and Soulbinds go, there are 2 of them that you would probably want to consider. They're both very, very close, so depending on whichever playstyle you enjoy more, I don't think you can really make a argument that one is completely better than the other. I just think that the Kyrian just edges it out a little bit more, especially when you're Soulbind to Pelagos. And the reason why I like it is with Kyrian and Pelagos is it gives you combat meditation, which basically gives you 350 increase to mastery over 10 seconds. And it also expels sorrowful memories. And when you walk through those, it extends that duration for an additional 3 seconds. This one is just really, really good in my opinion. But right next to it, right behind it would be the Night Fae with Naya. another very good one. Like I said, both of those are very, very strong. You can play with either one. I'm sure you would be just fine. So whichever one you prefer, that is the go-to choice. All right, so now I'm going to go through kind of an opener for single targets, and then I'll go through the multi-targets right after that. Just kind of giving you guys an idea of what to look for and what you're wanting to kind of prioritize as. Obviously, each rotation is very different depending on the circumstance, and there is no definite set sequence of what you should be doing. You definitely need to react to depending on what's happening in your game, but this is kind of a general guideline and to hope to help you guys out. So number one, go ahead and precast 2 Wraths. That's going to get you into Eclipse. Hit that Star Surge. Apply your dots with Sunfire, Moonfire, and Stellar Flare. Hit Starfire until you hit around 90 Astral Power. Then go ahead and use Celestial Alignment. Cast your Kindred, Empowerment, and then cast Star Surge 3 times. The main thing you're trying to do is just make sure that you're trying to keep your dots up, as well as using your spinners with Star Surge or Starfall as you're trying to get into the Eclipse. All right, so your multi-target situation, cast off Sunfire, get to that Lunar Eclipse, which is the best. So understand that Lunar Eclipse is the best for AoE and cleaving. So that is going to be the one you're going to want to get into. Obviously, they do alternate back and forth, but Lunar is the one you're going to want to get into for AoE. Use your Starfire to hit around right around 50 Astral Power. Use Starfall, Moonfire, and then cast your Celestial Alignment and Kindred Spirit. If you did go with the recommended talents that we did for AoE, you can cast Starfall. Instead of using it at 3 targets, you can use Starfall at 2 targets. And Moonfire is one of those ones that really should only be used during the solar eclipse. All right, so let's get into your legendaries. For single target, the best legendary looks to be Balance of All Things. And then for your AoE and mythics, it looks to be the Primordial Arcanic Pulsar. That is going to be the best one for that. All right, so as far as Torghast goes, a couple things have changed, as you can see from the talent tree displayed here. Nature's Balance, I still think, is the best one in that row. The fact that it gives you that 50 Astral Power and 2 seconds of regen, I still think it's by far and away the best one on level 15. Levels 25, 30, and 35 are obviously depending on your playstyle or what you're needing to do in Torghast. You can choose any of these 3 and you will be fine. Like I said, I do like the Wild Charge. I like the Resto Affinity, and I like Mighty Bash. But there's definitely arguments for different ones depending on. At level 40, I think Star-Lord or Incarnation here are very good, just because there's not as big as a ramp up time. So I think Star-Lord is probably the one that I would go with, just because I can burn down these things pretty quickly. At level 45, Stellar Drift, just to give you that extra AoE damage. And I think at level 50, Solstice is still the best, with that 300% increase to shooting stars over the first 6 seconds of an eclipse. All right, guys, so that is going to do it for the Balance Druid guide. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys are having fun in Shadowlands. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, if there's any type of other talents that you're going with, or what your recommendation is, or that you are definitely seeing as you guys progress, or if you sim your characters. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and turn those notifications on. And remember, guys, that life is a circus. Enjoy the freak show, and I will see you guys next time.